Have you ever made a money mistake? I mean, who hasn't, right? Here's the $1,000,000 lesson. Did you learn from it or did you continue to repeat it? One thing I know for sure is that a mistake isn't a problem if you learn from it and avoid repeating it. Some do and others not so much. They just keep repeating the same mistake. Ideally, if you have issues with money, it's great if you can experience a faux pas or a mistake early in life while you have time to recover from it. One of the things I've seen is that most people who make mistakes make them early in life, they learn from them, and then they go forward. Some people, for whatever reason, continue to make the same mistake. So you just got to make sure that's not you. Managing money and your finances can be challenging, and avoiding some of the most common money mistakes is a great first step to securing your financial future and retirement. So that's what we're diving into today. Hi, my name is Annette Ba'u, your host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of the Millionaire Insider. For over 30 years, I have been advising and researching the top 1% of millionaires, and I am passionately obsessed with money, mindset, and the intersection of self-worth and net worth, and how the two connect and allow us to live fulfilled and wealthy lives on our terms. I'm a Midwestern girl who had a dream, began investing $25 a month 35 years ago, and today have a multi-million-dollar net worth. I teach the tried and true that only someone with over 3 decades of experience advising millionaires would know. This podcast is different about much more than money. We talk about mindset, success, money blocks, worth barometer, and all aspects of money and topics from practical manifestation, along with real world how-to and everything in between, with the goal of making your journey easier and more fun. Think of this as coffee, actually matcha tea, learning real world common sense money and life advice from a BFF that you can start applying today. If you want to create a financially free life you love, you are in the right place, my friend. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. Our free resource is our Financial Freedom Formula Guide. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/FFG. This resource provides critical insight into securing a financial future and retirement you love. And it's one of the best insights I've created because it helps you get clear on your end goal. What do you want? Do you want to have choices? Do you want to have financial freedom? Probably the best insight on financial freedom is that it provides you choices, flexibility. So you don't have to be worrying if you can afford something or what your future is going to look like. This guide has 3 elements to it: your inner game, which is your foundation, your game plan, which is your strategy, and then your outer game, which is your execution. And it's critical to achieving your goal. So I really encourage you to take advantage of this free resource. Again, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/FFG. All materials and intellectual property are copywritten by themillionaireseries.com. This information is not intended to replace any advisor, specialist, or to provide any investment, financial, tax, retirement, planning, or any healthcare advice. All participants agree to hold Millionaireseries.com and its affiliates harmless for results achieved and not achieved. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/47. Today, we're going to dive into the biggest money mistakes you should avoid, as well as a bonus. And I'm going to start off with one of the key bonuses. And that is ignoring your worth barometer. See, most people don't think when it comes to money mistakes that their mental outlook or their worth barometer, how they feel about themselves, is a big deal. But I'm just telling you, my friends, you can take it from me. I've been researching this for over 40 years and I've been advising people for over 35. Our worth dictates so much about how we show up, the actions we take or don't take. And if you want to ever have money and a fulfilled life, you got to have a healthy worth barometer. Now, the worth barometer impacts your wealth barometer, but there are a lot of people who have money that have a low worth barometer and they have miserable lives. They have health problems. They have drinking problems. They've got marital problems. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, assuming you want to have money and a great life, you got to work on your worth barometer. And I'll link to it in the show notes, but you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/3 to learn more about the worth barometer. Failing to set goals. And again, I'm going to also link to the goal setting because it's so critical, but I'm going to give you an overview here. I just don't want to spend the entire time talking about goals when we've done an entire episode on goals. But the key about goal setting is it allows us to slow down and consider possibilities about our future and what we want to create so that we can get clear. Because before we can set goals, we've got to take the time to say, what do I really want, right? Then we've got to develop a plan and set those goals, short and long term. And ideally, you want to make sure that you're really clear on the financial goals you need to set so that you can create your dream life, what you want. You may not be able to have everything, but you can determine what's most important and then start there. It is so critical that we set goals because goals provide the means to show up and do the work we need to do to achieve our goals. And there's a part of our brain that scientists refer to as the reticular activity center. And that part of our brain draws us towards something that we are focusing in on, meaning like we set goals and then that part of our brain draws us towards that. It is fascinating what happens when you start setting goals. And I recommend you set them in I am or I active verbs. So I am enough is huge for your worth barometer. I weigh however much you weigh with ease. I earn how much money you earn with ease. All of those are great ones. Neglecting to create a spending plan. Failing to create and follow a budget is a recipe for financial disaster. Now, if you hear the word budget and automatically you're kind of like me, you think of like, oh my gosh, that's a diet. Using the term spending plan can be really helpful. And that's what wealthy people do. They don't say I'm on a budget. They say this is our spending plan. So just to be clear on that, without a clear understanding of your income and expenses, it's easy to overspend and ultimately start accumulating debt. So take the time to track your finances and then allocate funds to different categories like savings, what you need for expenses, as well as discretionary spending. You want to complete a monthly P&L, that's a profit and loss, and that shows your income, what came in from all sources, and then your expenses, what you're spending. And ideally, you want to separate those out from wants and needs. What do you really need versus what do you want? Then you want to complete an annual balance sheet. And this is your assets and your liabilities. So it's assets minus liabilities gives you your net worth. Ideally, hopefully, you're on track to living debt-free. I mean, this year marks 20 years that I've been debt-free, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And a lot of my peers have given me grief. Oh, you could have so much more money. And I think, well, let's see who won that race, right? But the reality of it is that I just like that peace of mind. And I find that the majority of my female clients feel the same way. So again, you have to see what works for you. But living debt-free, in my opinion, is just priceless. All right, kind of tied to that is ignoring emergency savings. Ideally, you have an emergency fund. This is what you use in the event that you have a challenge or an unexpected expense. It provides you a financial safety net. A lot of times people have unexpected expenses and they derail them because they're not prepared for them. Most experts recommend 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. As I share, I like more, then we're also building a home. So we need more. But I just like having more in cash. And right now, I mean, if you have money, you can get a really good amount of money on your savings. That's not always been the case. Last year changed things. I mean, you can get like 5%. Now I realize some of these minimums are like at least 100,000. Some of them, they go up if you have 1 million. But you think about it, $100,000, if you're earning not even 1% is like nothing. Whereas if you're earning 5%, that's $5,000 a year. It's amazing. Accumulating high interest debt. So what ends up happening when we overspend is oftentimes we start using credit cards or take out loans, take out a second mortgage, and we start getting in debt. And that can wreak havoc on your financial plan, on your financial future. Ideally, you want to be paying cash for purchases if you don't have the discipline to pay your credit card off when it's due. Now, I like to pay it real time. So this is what I do. In my business accounts, I know how much I spend in one of my companies. So every 2 weeks, that credit card just gets paid. And then I just keep track. If we have a real high month of expenses, then I pay extra. So that's how I do it relating to my business. On my other business, I just make sure that I've got it paid. And that one varies a little bit. So what I do is when I look at it, I actually typically will pay extra. Let's say it's 4,000 or 5,000, and I'll put 6,000 towards it. I like to do that with my businesses because then I know real time what I really have as far as income. Personally, our personal credit card is predictable. And so that just gets drafted out of our checking account every month. So again, you got to figure out what works for you. But the key is that you don't get into debt and that you don't pay high interest rates on the debt that you owe. Living beyond your means, trying to keep up with the Joneses can lead to disaster. We overspend and accumulate debt, getting back to that debt. So I want you to think about overspending. It's kind of like overeating. It's a result of not processing our emotions. The one thing I will share with you if you do anything is just get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to dive into impulse spending for 1 minute. One of the things you can do to avoid impulse spending is to create a spending plan ahead of time. All right. So we talked about a spending plan, but I want you to identify ahead of time what you are going to spend your money on. And that will entail living within your means, prioritizing your financial goals. But see, what happens is when we make eating or spending decisions on the spur of the moment, those thoughts, that comes from our primal brain, which is also known as our child or toddler limbic brain. And making decisions from that standpoint are going to be emotional, irrational, what I want to do. Just think of a toddler that's not getting their way. That's your emotional brain. As compared to our prefrontal cortex, which is much more of an adult brain. It's rational, it's reasonable. When you feel the urge to overspend, just slow down and observe the thoughts and emotions that come up. Before making a purchase, take a moment to consider whether it aligns with your financial goals and financial plan. Implementing a 3-day rule can help curb impulse spending by giving you time to think it over. And I'll link to that in the show notes. The 3-day rule is so good. Now, I've lost 10, 12 pounds simply by learning to process my emotions. I was never really overweight, but I now weigh what I weighed in high school, and I feel better than I've ever felt. But what I found that I did is I would eat when I was bored. Like, well, I'm bored, so I might as well eat. And it's just so interesting that I look back on it now, and it has given me such a perspective of people who overspend, which has never been my issue. But this is the thing. Now, I manifest very quickly, and that's good news for you because it means you can too, because I'm not special. I just have learned how to do it. You just get clear on what you want and you focus on it, and you can do it, right? But for food, it took me about 2 weeks, and it was hard because I had never done it. Let me explain this. What I was doing is I would eat dinner. So I eat about 6. And then sometimes right before I'd go to bed, I'd have a little something. So maybe about 9. And then I wouldn't eat again until the next morning at about 10 or 11. So I was doing quasi-intermittent fasting. And then I would eat breakfast around 9:30 or 10. And then around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I get really hungry. It's really interesting. That and right before I go to bed are my 2 red zone problem areas. And so I'd always have something to eat. I was listening to this podcast where this woman was talking about that you don't need to have 5 meals a day or like 3 meals and 2 snacks. And you really can do 2 meals. And I was like, well, why don't I do that? So what that meant then is no snack before I go to bed. I then eat in the morning when I get up. I mean, I have a whole ritual I do in the morning, but I eat around 9:30, and then I don't eat until dinner time, which is between 4 and 6. And so it seems like, okay, but oh my gosh, at 3 o'clock, I'm like, I'm going to die. And it was so interesting to observe the thoughts that went on, crazy thoughts, like I could starve to death. I'm not going to starve to death, or I won't be able to finish the day strong. And it was fascinating to just observe and to sit in that. Because the big thing, what many of us have been taught to do, and I always taught people to do, is to distract yourself, right? Go get a drink of water or a cup of tea. Do something to distract yourself. I did a certification last year. And the reason I did it was more because I wanted to do research on this group because I was so fascinated with how into money these women are, meaning doing good and earning money. And it was just fascinating. But it was so interesting to kind of just observe what was going on and how this was impacting me. I walked away with that certification with really two huge nuggets. And one was letting myself just be comfortable being uncomfortable. And it was just a foreign thing. So, anyway, I encourage you to try that. Another thing is overconfidence. I wanted to bring this up because this can be a real problem. And again, I'm not here to pick on men, but a lot of times, especially when it comes to money and finances and investing, men are overconfident as compared to women, which is really interesting. And studies have shown that too. But it's also occupation. I have seen some brilliant business owners, doctors, executives fall into this trap. I'm brilliant in this area, therefore I'm brilliant at investing my money or creating a financial plan. Just because you're brilliant in one area does not mean you're brilliant in another. It's mind-boggling to me the number of doctors I have heard of who start day trading or buying a restaurant or a farm or ranch, and they end up in a terrible financial position. I remember interviewing a woman who was married to an alcoholic lawyer. He lost all of her and his retirement money trading online before she had any clue what was going on. So again, just be aware of that. In episode 45, themillionaireinsider.com/45, which I'll link to in the show notes, I discuss financial confidence. I share a story about my son who plays volleyball for a D1 school. Because he has less experience than the other players, he's lacked the confidence. And it's unfortunate because he's not only a phenomenal athlete, he's also an amazing student. And he has every reason to be confident. Very confident when it comes to being smart, but not so much when it comes to playing volleyball, even though he knows he's a really good athlete. It's so interesting. And so I share some insight about how I've coached him just to increase his confidence. And it'll help anyone who needs confidence in any area of their life. So again, that's themillionaireinsider.com/45. I think some of you guys will really enjoy that. Forgo retirement savings. The best time to start saving is yesterday. The next best time is today. It's never too early to start saving for retirement. And for some, it's never too late. The sooner you start, the better. Waiting to contribute to retirement accounts like your 401k or IRA or pension can result in huge missed opportunities because you don't have that compound growth where you're earning money on the principal and interest. I recommend that you start saving 10 to 15% of your income and then continue to increase that until you're saving 35 to 50% of your income. Now, I know that sounds crazy. And I can remember when I had one of my clients doing it, I'm like, that's crazy. And then I started doing it. I'm like, it's really not that hard. The thing you have to get used to is the fact that you're not going to be rewarded like you are when you're spending money. Because when you don't have the new clothes, the new jewelry, the new car, the new house, whatever it may be, you're not going to get as much attention from saving it as you do spending it. And you just got to get used to that. Poor investment choices and ignoring investment opportunities. So keeping all your money in really safe places is not smart. It doesn't help you to grow your wealth over time. Now, this is interesting and it's embarrassing, but we have a lot of money right now in cash because we're building this house. One of the things that was interesting was the fact that we were earning like 0.0003%. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We're like a premier client. The first thing I did is move it and I put it in some CDs. Those were earning over 5%. So right away on every 100,000, we were making 5,000. And then I took money in my money market that was earning nothing and I put it in a money market that was actually insured. And that's paying, I think right now, 4.9. Now, granted, these fluctuate. And obviously you need to do your own research. You need to talk to your advisor. I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm just telling you my situation, my experience. But I literally went from making nothing to 5,000 per 100,000. So do the math. If you have 100,000, that's 5,000. If you have 500,000, that's 25,000 a year. If you have 700,000, that's 35,000 a year. If you have 1,000,000, that's 50,000 a year. Would you rather have 50,000 a year of income or is basically zero? Crazy, but it's true. You want to consider diversifying your investments, stocks, bonds, real estate, or other assets to get higher returns. Now, this is critical. You've got to hire an expert or you've got to become an expert. That's not an area you want to mess around. And ideally, you want to get somebody who is registered, a registered investment advisor that has a fiduciary duty and that knows what they're doing when it comes to investing. There are a lot of people out giving investment advice. And in my opinion, it's terrifying. And the reason they can get away with it is because the market has been going up for the last 14 years. So anyone can be giving advice. When it goes down, not so much. So be aware of that. Underfunding your insurance. There's so many unpredictable and unexpected events that happen. Accidents, illnesses, natural disasters, and they can wreak havoc on our finances. You want to make sure you have adequate insurance in the areas of your health, auto, home, umbrella, disability, long-term care, and life insurance so that you can protect yourself and your loved ones. I love life insurance. And as long as you have the right life insurance policy, it is great. The key when it comes to life insurance is you've got to have the amount you need. I see a lot of people that they need $1,000,000, but because they can't afford $1,000,000 of a permanent policy, somebody has sold them 100,000 of a whole life for a universal life. That to me is so problematic. So make sure you've got adequate coverage. And if you can't afford a permanent product, then buy term. The key when it comes to a permanent product is if you need your insurance for 5 to 7 years, 7 being kind of the marker, term is typically better. If you need it for more than 7 years, then a permanent is better. And again, you've got to look at if you're going to have whole life or you're going to have universal life. Failing to plan for taxes. Taxes can eat into your income so quickly. You want to take advantage of tax saving strategies like contributing to your retirement accounts, claiming deductions and credits, and then planning for capital gain. So just be aware of it. Consulting with a qualified financial advisor who specializes in tax planning or a tax professional can help. Not seeking financial advice. As I mentioned, managing money can be complex and it can be helpful to have somebody who's been there and done it and knows what they're doing. The first thing you need to do is determine if you need a money coach, meaning do you have all these money stories? Are you under earning? Do you have money blocks? Do you have beliefs that are keeping you stuck? If so, then you need more of a financial or money coach. Or do you need help creating your financial plan, a spending plan, having an insurance analysis, an investment, retirement tax, or estate plan completed? If so, you need a financial advisor. Whether you're going to hire a financial advisor, accountant, or whomever, you want to be getting advice from someone that has the expertise. This can help you to make better financial decisions and avoid costly mistakes. Another issue that's tied to this is not staying current with your plan as your situation changes. So not staying current with your plan as your situation changes can be disastrous. So make sure you stay up on it. You don't just do a financial plan and then don't think about it. And I know a lot of people do that. It's not ideal. By avoiding these common money mistakes, you can take control of your finances and work towards achieving your financial goals. And remember, it's the small changes in your habits and mindset that can lead to significant improvements in your financial well-being over time. So there you have it. And I just want to leave you with, you've got this. Just the fact that you're tuned in, that you're taking even one step is going to help you more than sitting there and doing nothing. Let's recap on the money mistakes you need to avoid. We've all made mistakes. Go back and review these money mistakes and determine which ones apply more to you or which ones you're more concerned about, and then rank those. For example, if you or your child are not contributing to their 401k, set a date to help them get started. If you don't have enough money in your emergency reserve, start saving now. If you don't have a qualified advisor, schedule an appointment with one to review your plan, your insurance, your estate plan, to make sure you don't have any gaps. If you love the content of this podcast, please follow and subscribe to our channel so you get notified of episodes, and also give us a 5-star review and share a comment. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on taking another step to create a financially free life you love. If you're not sure about your financial future or that it's in order, or you are ready to stop worrying about money, or possibly the fear of becoming a bag lady, ending up broke in retirement, or you simply are ready to know your financial house is in order so that you can have a bright financial future, please go to themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. And that doesn't stand for non-sufficient funds. It stands for next step finance. It's the next best step of what you need to do so you can avoid an NSF notice in your future. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. The number of women who were not broke or poor while working or married is staggering. The entire mission of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast is to ensure you have the information for you, your family, your friends, anyone who's willing to listen to it and apply it so that you can create a financially free life you love. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. Until our next episode, take one action that will help you create a financially free life you love. Thank you so much for joining me for the 8 money mistakes you need to avoid. I'm Annette Bau, host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.